not like.
We are
Okay, we are live. This is Senate Finance. This is May 8th, my sister's birthday. And today we are going, no, wait, this is Thursday. No, it's May 7th. We're going to take up H 578, penalties and procedures for animal cruelty offense. Are you the reporter sponsor? Do you want
the
to
sponsor. Oh no, I don't. I can if you want, but I was just here.
Well, why don't you tell us why you
Oh, okay.
put the bill up?
All right.
And then we will.
Wow, even your witness chairs are nice there.
Thanks. I have one. I don't know who else in this committee had a bad back, but I
Oh.
inherited Claire Ayers. And
For the record, Representative Emily Cosmo, 9 South Burlington, and also for the record, my birthday's tomorrow, so I share that with your sister.
my sister.
Yes. I'm down here because I am the lead sponsor of H 578, bill that I've been working on for many years. And I serve on the General and Housing Committee, and this is a judiciary bill. So I've been spending a lot of time in judiciary this year because this bill has been incredibly important to me. And for many years, I've been asking to get it prioritized. And so the bill, is a simple bill, as they say here, but not so simple. So it's really important. So it kind of, we'll have the walkthrough, but there's been over the years, growing up in Vermont, I've seen a lot of animal cruelty cases, and there were some gaps in what I saw. And one of the gaps was something called cost of care. And so right now, when an animal is taken, whether it be a dog or cat or horse or, any type of animal, organizations, rescues, and other people are fitting the bill for that. And I believe that that should be on the abuser of an animal, not taxpayers or the wonderful organizations around the state that take on that brunt. And so that was something that humane societies and other organizations have really been working hard in other states for. And so that was one component. A second component of the bill is harder to talk about, but it's something we needed to talk about, which is increasing the scope of bestiality in our state animal laws. So unfortunately, in Williston, there was a really awful case this year with animal pornography. So people exploiting animals in today's world of 2026 is different than back in the day. So this bill also increases that scope of what constitutes as sexual abuse with an animal. And then the third reason I introduced this bill was a number of cases that I had seen where folks would be convicted of animal abuse and cruelty, but then other animals would still languish. I don't know if folks saw the horses in Townsend or other. Yeah, so it's really awful. So then, this bill, in testimony is supported by the state's attorneys, law enforcement testified. I worked with all these folks because it's really difficult right now to be able to, so this, as we'll hear in the walkthrough, deals about forfeiture of animals so that it's a tighter timeline and process when animals are seized. And so that's a really important thing that's come up. So I grew up with animals my whole life. We had a lot of land and we always adopted farm animals and dogs, and I just saw that they're part of the family. And the legislature has, late Senator Sears did a number of amazing things for animals, and there's just a few more things that I think
did ear cropping.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
That's huge too. There's other.
Put my foot in the middle of an international controversy.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, there's a number of other, after my first animal welfare bill that I introduced, that passed into law was about, the puppy mill pipeline a couple years back, and, that was in agriculture. And so after doing that, I started to work on other things and see that there was, so anyway, so these are, it's kind of an omnibus judiciary bill and walk through it, but, yeah, I was really grateful that House Judiciary prioritized it this year, and then Senate Judiciary also prioritized it, and now it's to you, and I'm not gonna give away the finance aspect of it, but anyway, so that's kind of where we're at, and I'm just so grateful. Obviously, this has been a really tough session, and prioritizing animals is not always the top, but as I told my district or South Burlington delegation mate, Martin Lalone, who chairs judiciary, the animals can't wait any longer. So we have to get this done, and that's why we're here.
Just make everybody watch the ASPCA ad.
Oh, and did you
They
see?
put that in St. Jude on back to
Oh
back,
my
at which
God.
point I shut off the TV.
It's really bad. Did you see the most recent ASPCA came in Loyal County, and there was like 40 or something huskies that were
I did,
that was just
my daughter
Oh.
is a vet tech.
Oh.
She has a rescue that was
oh
one of the just pinned up in
Oh.
a big pen with lots. But unfortunately, some frequent, especially with horses.
yeah.
Grew up in Kentucky. My
Oh.
grandfather raised horses. He raised Western horses in Massachusetts, but horses are very expensive. and
Oh, yeah.
People get them and they love them, but they don't have the money to care for them, and you end up some really horrendous situations.
Yeah, we had testimony in one of the committees from Dorset Equine Rescue. That is amazing. It's a little far from where I live, but I plan to go there in the summer. If anyone wants to come and visit all the rescue horses, and Martha Stewart adopted one of the towns.
I saw, okay.
Yeah, anyway, so that's kind of my gist. Thank you for the impromptu invite, Madam Chair. I'll listen to a little bit before, in case our bells start ringing, we have a lot of roll calls.
All right.
Thank you.
So, Hillary, come on up. Welcome to Senate Finance.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah. And I think we're looking at 5,000 foot thing until we get to whatever any revenue costs are. So you can give us a really high level walkthrough, and then we'll have Chris, the numbers look like. And then I'm planning on just voting this out of here. Put that on for possible vote. That's not on there, but I don't think this is one that's gonna sit here a long.
Which one is this?
Animal cruelty.
Oh. Okay.
Your favor or against it?
I'm against animal cruelty.
Okay. I think we can all agree on this, so let's go and we can
All
vote
right.
it out of here.
For the record, Hillary Cheddar Ames, Office of Legislative Counsel. So 5,000 feet. In current statute, we have animal cruelty offenses. Humane officers can seize animals that are subject to cruelty. And an ongoing challenge has been how do you pay for costs of care while the animals are, after they've been seized, while they're waiting for forfeiture proceedings. Under current law, there aren't any timelines for how quickly the forfeiture proceedings have to move along. And so we're going to stretch out, prevents organizations from putting things up for adoption. Exactly.
All right.
So that's the kind of problem and what's happening. 578 expands the kinds of conduct that constitute animal cruelty offenses, both misdemeanors and felonies. It also expands some of the other sanctions that a court can impose on a person convicted of animal cruelty. And then it speeds up and better funds, or tries to better fund, which is where you come in, the process that exists in current law for that allows civil forfeiture of an animal that has been cruelty. So it adds some time limits for how quickly you have to move a forfeiture proceeding along, and it requires that an owner pay a security. It goes to the court and then the animal welfare fund to cover cost of holding the animal while the forfeiture proceedings are ongoing. So that's a high level. Happy to dive in anywhere people are interested,
What
but I think
happens-
security is right. It's
I don't know if it's frequently, but there are people who have some mental health challenges. I mean, there are people who are doing puppy bills for money. There are people who are keeping animals because they love animals. They've got 75 cats and they can't afford to feed them. And they can't afford to pay forfeiture. I'm going to trust the judiciary isn't going to allow them to end up in this endless cycle of failure to pay, judgment, failure to pay, worse judgment.
It's a great and important point, and there is a provision in the bill that allows for an owner to request either a full waiver or reduction of the security amount based on financial hardship.
Okay. Okay, as long as there's
Protection there. And to seize the animal in the first place, the humane officer have to believe that there's perhaps probable cause to think that the animal has been subject to animal cruelty. So there's both, that kind of initial funnel for who's going to end up in this process. And then there are those protections for a financial hardship waiver for the security amount.
you remember sitting in there with Senator Sears on testimony was the horses were out in the fields and there was no barns. And the horse people said, no, you have to understand horses. There's a herd person, and if there was a barn, only the lead horse would be in the barns. The other horses would not go in.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
My God.
But everybody was, they were nice.
Kind of queen.
They were nice, yeah. They were nice fuzzy horses, but sometimes it's not cruelty. Somebody called and told me my Labrador was sitting out there and it was cold. I'm saying my Labrador is in heaven sitting out there. It's cold.
Yeah, some dogs love it.
Yeah, he was in his glory. So, okay, so that's part one. Part two.
That really is the part. That's the kind of high level, what's happening across the bill, the security, I think is really the finance revenue related portion. So happy to answer any of your questions about the security or anything that I've mentioned. Otherwise I will.
No, I don't think we're gonna.
I took you literally at the 5,000 foot view.
Scrolling through the bill, can you tell me where it is in the bill?
The security, yeah.
Yeah. I haven't seen it yet.
Section.
It starts on page 20. So the first half of the bill is really touching on the expanded conduct that constitutes a felony and on the modification for the other sanctions available. And the procedure part, of which the security is a large component, that starts on page 14.
Okay.
With the initial procedure, and then the security is really page 20, subdivision B. So that'll be subdivision D3B on line 12.
Yeah, okay.
So the person who requests a forfeiture hearing has to post security, and the amount needed to cover food and necessary veterinary care. The amount of security and payment schedule are set by rule by the Director of Animal Welfare. And the bill has a session law provision for the next year until those rules can be approved. That sets at least kind of a baseline security amount. So this is page 28, section 8, starting on line 10. Until the Director of Animal Welfare adopts rules for the amount of security. Security shall be imposed as required in this section. So for all animals other than livestock, including domestic pets, poultry, security is $1 per animal per day for food. And if the seizing officer determines that immediate veterinary care is required to protect the animal's health or safety, $250 per animal for veterinary services. So that's only if the humane officer deems that veterinary care is immediately necessary.
Okay.
And then
Per day again? Did you say per day?
it is per animal per day for food, $1
$1.
for non-livestock, and then $250 for veterinary services.
That's a flat fee.
That's a flat, exactly, that's not per day. That is just a flat if,
Right.
if there's some immediate concern about the animal's health or safety, then $250 for veterinary services. And then for livestock, it is $2.50 per animal per day for food. And similarly, veterinary services only if the seizing officer determines that it's immediately necessary to protect the animal's health or safety. And for livestock, it's $500 per animal. So the rules, my understanding is that they will be much more specific and they will be providing very specific amounts by animal. For purposes of this kind of interim coverage, the choice was either have no security until we have rules, or do something simple that is likely a bit lower than what the rules will ultimately do, but that will provide something in the meantime. And so this was the approach taken, a kind of default for all animals other than livestock, smaller animals, and then for livestock. And these numbers came from the director of animal welfare based on their experience. So I can't offer a whole lot more than that.
I didn't follow that point you just made. So this is just in the interim until the rules are made,
Correct.
and then they could choose up to these amounts, but the language doesn't say up to these amounts.
Yes, they can.
No, it is in these amounts. What I was trying to say, and clearly didn't do very well, is that the rules will likely be something higher than these amounts. The idea in choosing an interim amount was some placeholder that made sense and that wouldn't be greater than what the director anticipates proposing in rules for these categories. And again, the hardship waiver still applies, so that applies
You
for
really
the
can't
interim
afford
and
to feed 75 cats. You're not gonna get hit with $75 a day.
exactly. And part of how this plays into some of the changes the bill makes in terms of procedure is that once an animal is seized, someone has to decide whether they are contesting the seizure and whether they want a forfeiture hearing. So someone who has 75 cats knows they can't care for the 75 cats could choose not to contest forfeiture of at least some of those cats, in which case they can be much more immediately adopted or cared for or handled. If an owner does not contest seizures and request a forfeiture hearing within 14 days, then they forfeit title to the animal. So that's another way that it speeds up the process to try to care for animals who will not be staying with an owner. But if the owner is contesting seizure of at least some of those animals, then at least for the next year, the $1 per animal per day would apply. But the owner could request a financial hardship waiver.
And once the animals are seized, then they go to maintenance society.
To a rescue organization, to a shelter. I am new to this portfolio, so I don't have a ton of details on exactly how that works in parts of the state. But that is currently how it operates.
So these are not fees, but there's, I mean, do we often give our authority to a division director to set
Higher fees.
fees? They're not, I mean,
These are, we don't set, well, no. The judiciary gets really touchy if we try and set their.
yeah, so this is not a fee and this is not a fine, something different.
It is,
So it's sort of in this gray area where,
it's a charge for the cost of the care of the animal that we have taken from you.
mhm,
And rules will establish. So it is a payment fee. Like. You
Right.
get charged for garaging your car if it gets towed.
I mean, I guess that usually we are concerned about giving our authority to other people to set fees. So I'm just bringing this up is this an appropriate thing to give the authority to somebody else to do?
Well, they're gonna do it by rule,
Yeah.
and then we'll get a second look, but it's supposed to be based on the cost.
Yes.
But referring to the security here, the question is there a definition of what security means?
There is not as a definition section, but I think as the bill is drafted, it explains that the security covers food and any necessary veterinary care.
Are there any other comparables that state government does where they give the ability for departments to set sort of holding charges in these types of circumstances where that just to normalize this idea that that the department should set the varying amounts outside of the legislature's authority?
It's a good question. I would have to look into it and get back to you. The bill, I mean, this is the legislature authorizing directly on welfare to do this by rule. And it wouldn't be discretionary in each case, right? The rules would have, I would expect a table that said, if you seize one horse, it is this amount for food, it is this amount for this other cost. And I think given the rules are anticipated to be kind of by animal and then these costs, I'm not aware of where we've done that in legislation to that level of detail. It's the kind of thing that might make sense in a rule. But I'm happy to look more into kind of if there are any other comparable scenarios.
I'm just curious, maybe we need to set an upward bound too. I can't see a department going off and saying, it's $40,000 a day, but if there was a high end cap.
Price for the horse is going to be high.
Yeah.
And if you throw in veterinary care and most of these, I don't even want to think about what my daughter did for veterinary care. And it wasn't any serious thing. It was just some chronic issues that no one had dealt with. And she's a vet tech, so if I were hauling the same dog in there, it would be hundreds of dollars. And so we have a Matos with a lie.
Is that cash or
As must be.
can't hear you, Chris? We said about those.
No, that's Grady. That's the 1-year-old.
Hey, Grady.
Hey, Grady.
Any thoughts about animal cruelty?
Don't be me.
It may keep us in bounds here.
So one reason this might be a little bit different than other scenarios is that seizing animals doesn't look like seizing any other kind of thing we usually seize because they are living things that require cost to maintain in a way that seizing a car does not entail quite the same necessity to have some costs coming in as opposed to kind of costs paid at the end, which was a tension that the committee put down with throughout this bill of how do you strike the right balance when you're talking about due process and notice and other procedures when seizure of an animal does implicate some different questions than some other areas. But I'm happy to look more into
Us,
happy to handle this. in other-
I'm just. We aren't anticipating that this is going to happen quickly, right? If they have to go animal by animal and. So we could ask that they bring their recommendations back next year and we could approve that would protect our priority. And put the fees in place. And then they wouldn't have to go through rulemaking, which is a year long and arduous. What this essentially does is it's saying, here's an emergency rule, this is the money. And then go through the year long, it could probably just as fast to bring it back here in January. And have us set it.
Policy question for you.
Would that make people feel more comfortable?
Seem more consistent with our general approach to these things. Just because no example came to mind that we allow for these amounts to be
I
set.
can't think of anything. It's closer to a judicial fee, but it's really a cost. Yeah. I mean, there are people who are cruel to be cruel, but an awful lot of these cases seem to be people who love their kitties and just don't have enough money or space to house them or feed them or get them the necessary veterinary care. And I would anticipate that a lot of these fees are not going to be able to be paid.
My understanding from testimony given to their committees is that that is correct.
Yes, I mean, that's. So
Yeah, just tell the fees that can't be paid.
we'll get all the fees that can be paid. So if you can draft that committee, would that make everybody comfortable? And
Have them come back with a recommendation and then we
then all we would, well, yeah, to us for approval,
yeah, I mean, that would be faster probably than
the rulemaking.
Yeah.
Okay, why don't we have Chris tell us what kind of money?
Sure. Chris, just I have very little to add to this. When I'm gonna tell this committee what I said to Ways and Means when they saw the bill that, this is kind of analogous to a fine or a penalty that you don't typically forecast. We don't know how frequently this would happen or what the specific situation would look like. But, I think it's important for the committee to just be mindful of the fact that this is not really like a revenue raiser for state government. This is really it's a way of recovering the costs of care and feeding for animals that are in this situation. And it does pass the state animal welfare fund as sort of the conduit, but this isn't really your typical.
The state doesn't pay this directly.
Yeah, and this isn't something that we would be building a budget around.
Yeah.
It's not like an annual permit fee or something like that. This is really like that would arise in situations that are difficult to predict in the future.
Yeah, okay. Yes, if the security comes into the animal welfare fund, then it's available for the director to pay out to the organizations that care for the animal based on their
It
approval
would
costs.
be probably the Humane Society or affiliate, one of the rescue organizations who would get some of their costs covered as, yeah. Okay, thank you. I believe this was a good first run. Okay, we are right on time to the minute. So Katie McGlynn is here. And we are taking up 657 and active relating to various programming and requirements within the Department of Children and Families. This is starting to feel like deja vu with my morning committee, so we have a little more space and air here. It's a bigger answer. I think. Anyway, welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Nice to see everyone. I will share this document. This is the report of health and welfare. This is an omnibus bill. It does many things, and I don't know that you'll be interested in this committee in talking about all of those things. It removes the asset limit for reach up. There is a social security program for youth that you'll hear from John from. I don't know if you've scheduled John, but those are his two sections of the bill. There is a unaccompanied youth certificate program that allows unaccompanied youth to obtain a certificate, and the certificate can be used to obtain various services like getting a driver's permit and other things that would typically require the permission of a parent or guardian. There is language about seclusion and restraint and the appropriate uses of seclusion and restraint for children in DCF custody. There is language about transporting a child in DCF custody and the appropriate uses of seclusion and restraint. And also when we talk about restraint, whether soft restraint or weight shackles or mechanical restraints can be used and in what circumstances. There are some various reporting requirements associated with those provisions. And there is a working group at the end and report looking at how DCF tracks pregnancies and alternative manners of that practice. So those are the topics that are covered in the bill. I'm thinking you don't want to review all of them, but why I think the bill is here is
Here's the money.
So asset limit would probably be appropriation.
That's it. All right.
I don't think it's I've seen the asset limit would be something that appropriations would look at, but there are fees that are being waived. So I mentioned that there's the unaccompanied youth certificate program, different
You want to tell
ways.
us a little bit about what that is? It almost,
Yes.
you used to go to court, become an emancipated youth, right?
That is still the case.
But
This
is
doesn't change
another
this.
Simpler.
Mhm. I think this legislative intent that the House added right before the bill was voted out, really, I think it's helpful in sort of capturing who this population of unaccompanied youth is. So in instances in which severe family dysfunction such as abuse, neglect, child abandonment, or lack of financial support has left a youth with 16 or 17 years of age homeless, and other support such as foster care are deemed inappropriate, it's the intent of the General Assembly to provide unaccompanied youth with the resources necessary to obtain services and benefits that the unaccompanied youth's peers can obtain with the consent of a parent or child. So I think that kind of summarizes what this language does. This section goes on to list some of the services that a certified unaccompanied youth can use this certificate for. And then there are fees waived associated with some of these items. So applying at no charge for a non-driver identification card or learner's permit, obtaining a vital event certificate at no charge, consent to healthcare by professionals licensed in Vermont, obtaining employment, purchasing an automobile and obtaining automobile liability policy, applying for student loan, obtaining admission to a high school or post-secondary school, and participating in school activities, including extracurricular activities and field trips, opening an account at a state or federally chartered bank or credit union, receiving services for victims of domestic or sexual violence as appropriate, and participate in court diversion programs or youth substance awareness safety programs operated by the court. So those are the items that this certificate can be used for. And then after this section of the bill, there is a whole series of sections that are conforming sections to sort of effectuate what was in that list. And this is where the fees are. So first we have this vital event certificate. And the lead-in language is that the state registrar shall waive the fee for certified copies of vital event certificates issued to an unaccompanied youth who has obtained the certificate. We have language for non-driver identification cards. Okay, lead-in language, the commissioner, meaning the commissioner of DMV, shall require payment of a fee of $29 the time application for an identification card is made, except to an initial non-driver identification card shall be issued at no charge to. We have a list of individuals who are exempt, and added to the list is unaccompanied youth who have the certificate. Top of page 14, license privilege cards. I read this language. We have this new subsection E, and an unaccompanied youth who has obtained the certificate shall be provided with an operator's license or operator privilege card at no charge. No additional fee is due for a motorcycle endorsement for an unaccompanied youth who has the certificate. We have similar language for a learner's permit. I'm on line 17. That is helpful. The commissioner shall require payment of a fee of $24 at the time the application is made, except that no fee shall be charged for an unaccompanied youth who has obtained the certificate. We have more language here. Right here, the fee for the examination is $11, except that no fee shall be charged for an unaccompanied youth who has obtained the certificate. And for motorcycles, learner permit in subdivision 3, the unaccompanied youth who has obtained the certification and an individual under 23 years of age, that's existing law, in the care and custody of DCF after attaining 14 years of age shall not be charged a fee for the renewal of a motorcycle learner's permit. In subdivision D2, an unaccompanied youth who has obtained the certificate and the 23-year-old that we just talked about is not charged a fee for a learner's permit or a duplicate of, or a renewal thereof of the learner's permit. So those are the sections that waive fees for a youth with the certificate, and those are vital records and otherwise some type of document from the DMV.
Can you tell us how does a youth get a certificate? That might be.
Sure. They have to be certified, and there's different people who can do that certification outlined in section 4 of the bill. Here we go. So to become certified, I'm in subsection C on page 6 at the very bottom. An unaccompanied youth may become certified if they are, then we have a list. First, they could be found by a school district homeless liaison or other appropriate staff person to be an unaccompanied youth. Or they're believed to qualify as an unaccompanied youth by one of the following: a director of an emergency shelter program funded by the state, the director of a runaway or homeless youth program funded by U.S. Department of Health and Human Services or U.S. HUD or a designee. Or they could be certified by a continuum of care lead agency or designee. They could be certified by the chief juvenile defender or designee, or the Vermont Network Against Domestic and Sexual Violence or designee. So those are the entities that could certify that somebody meets the definition of an unaccompanied youth. I could pause here. There's also, as I said, a working group. And if you want to look at that language, we can, maybe I'll scroll down to the end so you can see that. Okay, meetings. Okay. And subsection G of the working group language says that members of the working group who are not otherwise compensated for attendance at the meetings are entitled to per diem compensation for not more than 5 meetings.
It's across the hall.
Oh, this is not you. Okay, just kidding. I won't worry about it.
We're not giving it up. They're spending it. So
Okay.
what is going across the hall? So there is some urgency. Any questions? This is an omnibus bill. There's lots of sections. Committee did spend a fair amount of time.
Is there a fiscal note?
That's
Yeah.
where we'll get it. We're waiting for Nolan. If we don't have questions, maybe we'll let Nolan come. Because we just did away with fees for people who were held prior to trial and released. I'm just wondering if what point do we start to impact the Department of Motor Vehicles? Nolan, if we don't have any questions, we'll get Nolan up. We see this walk around this room.
It's not a room, and it's got 2 big beautiful windows.
Oh,
We work in a working museum.
that's right.
For the record, all night with joint fiscal office, to share my screen. So. If I recall, that's one of the favorite words in this committee is de minimis.
It would like to minimis.
So de minimis, so.
A lot of de minimises add up to a non-de minimis.
True, but when you
Or
think about
lots of
the,
grains of sand make a beach.
true, but when you think about the actual number of kids, it's not enough to really make a dent in the budgets. So the vital event certificate fees, we go from, it's $10 fee for copies. They'd be exempt from that, $10, right? Section 6 would exempt them from having to pay $29 fee for non-driver's identification cards, so they would waive that one. Section 7 and 8, you have your motor vehicle and motorcycle licenses. Yeah, that would be de minimis as well.
But
So
we already did that.
for this particular population, that's a key question.
Didn't we do a bill that exempted
Now that was the prisoners, or the
I thought there
people
was a
that were
reach
held.
out as well.
There's some language that I sort of read through that for some of these DMV exemptions that you're considering, that there are exemptions for somebody who's 23 and who was in DCF custody after they turned 14 years of age. So they're already exempted, and this is adding a new category.
Got it, okay. I knew I
Yeah,
remember
but we have
something.
done several of these, and so it's good to keep track
Yeah,
before we get into another having to set motor vehicle fees increases, which I don't think any of us want to go through again.
So, those are the major things, and the last one, which, you know, Katie mentioned, the social security benefit waiving. I think that's probably really more across the holidays. I mean, the DCF has sort of used it as quote unquote revenue, but it's not tax.
We probably should tell them,
wait,
this is, yeah, Katie didn't really go over it because it doesn't hit us. It's-
Which was it? I'm
This
sorry.
is the
Social security, and also you were saying that
Oh,
job section.
That's John's section. That's
But I
why I
don't-
didn't go
Yeah,
over it.
It's not a fee, right? It's not a fee, it's not a tax, it's social
it's-
security, though. So, I mean, I guess it's up to you whether you want to hear from John about the specifics.
Well,
of
I
it.
think the impact is going to be on folks right now. If you're a child in DCF custody and you are entitled to Social Security, SSI, the state keeps part or all of that to pay for your foster care, basically, or your care. This says, and there is a precedent for this, or it's national, Katie, there's federal involvement in. You know, the idea is this is the kids' money and the state shouldn't pay for it. So it's being put in trust for the kids, but the state across the hall will have to come up with the money to cover the cost at DCF.
It would create a budgetary hole for them to fill that gap. And in terms of what the Fed, my understanding was there's been some new federal guidance saying. they
Yes,
should not
that's
do
what
that.
I remember.
So there's no law, but it's new guidance from my understanding.
If
So,
we don't obey, we might.
so it becomes an appropriation issue because they'll have to backfill it.
Yeah.
And 700,000.
And this-
That's the major amount.
The departments seem to think that it's being stepped in and that they can cover it.
Matthew Bernstein is watching. He's with the Vermont Office of the Child, Youth and Family Advocate.
Okay,
He was wondering if he might be able to speak.
yes, he's welcome to Zoom in. We have the place, Katie, send Charlotte his contact, or if you send Charlotte your contact information, if you can hear us.
There's about a 15 to 20-second lag.
I'll try.
Okay,
I'll forward
Just so you know, so he'll hear it, but not for like 20 seconds.
Yeah, I know he's not gonna respond.
it.
Just, I don't need him to respond, just, send Charlotte your contact and we'll get you on Zoom.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
So anyway, those are the fees in this bill, which is why I came here. And then again, the Social Security, it's Social Security SSI, so it may or may not be your purview. It's in terms of how it affects the bill, it's definitely an appropriation issue. So
Yeah,
it's up to you whether you feel it is within your jurisdiction, would want to hear more or not.
we can always hear more, even if it's not in our jurisdiction.
That's true.
it does weaken our case though, when we yell at somebody else for stepping up.
It's true.
Any other questions about the fees or?
No, the fees are pretty cut and dried. I
Sure.
think the question is, it's like every time we allow a compact license, that we're losing local revenue, Vermont license revenue, and
Yeah, no, it's legit.
it's the cumulative effect. Those of us that during the last downturn funded a lot of good progress by just putting a little $5 and $10 fee on a traffic ticket until suddenly people couldn't pay the $200 to $300 that was on your ticket. And but that I learned a lesson from that. You know, it's the grain of sand thing. Well, it's just $500 and it was helping. You know, just $5, and it's helping the victims of crime services, and it's helping this, and it's helping. But it added up.
Matthew is on his own.
Okay, Matthew is on Zoom. Matthew, come on in. And just identify yourself. We've met you in health and welfare, but finance haven't. And floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Matthew Bernstein, Child, Youth, and Family Advocate for the state of Vermont. And frankly, I just want to be here. I was unclear as to whether you were going to look at, in particular, the Department of Mental Health memo that's on the website submitted today. And that was the main thing that I wanted to respond to, if that is going to be at issue, but which is also in the fiscal note. But if it's not going to be at issue, then I don't want to take up your time. I guess I would also say there's a lot of moving parts in this bill, and I'd be happy to help clarify if anybody has any questions. But it was on that particular subject that I wanted to be here. And as you know, Madam Chair, you've already heard a lot of this information, so I don't want to rehash anything that's not useful to this committee.
I try and keep this committee to our jurisdiction. Otherwise.
Whose memo, which memo is it that you're referring to, Matthew?
The Department of Mental Health memo from today that's on your website that relates to contracting.
It's Sandy Hoffman.
Got it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay, treatment agency. Okay, but this has to do with the restraints.
Correct.
Okay, no, the restraints are not in our jurisdiction. There is a concern that if we limit the kinds of restraints, that it may limit our ability with some out of placement facilities, out of state placements that go by different rules.
Okay, so this is not a, it says fiscal and system of care impact, but. Yeah.
And Madam Chair, yes, I think just to clarify, since you brought this up, this bill does not impact PRTFs or out-of-state facilities for DMH placed children. It simply impacts facility, I'm sorry, I'm talking about the restraint and seclusion sections in particular right now. Those relate to facilities where children in DCF custody are placed, both in-state and out, and also to facilities licensed and regulated by DCF. So that second category is only in-state facilities. DMH is reacting to what I believe is a business efficiency that they piggyback on the contracts of DCF in some of these placements, which I understand, but I just wanted to clarify that business efficiency is separate from the law, what this law says. And while I understand this law H657 passing might impact the fact that DMH piggybacks under those contracts, that is not a matter that's before the legislature. That is an issue that they have jurisdiction over and authority to change. They could separately contract, they could do something different, they could piggyback on the best practice that this bill puts forward, which is, we consider essential safeguards for children. So I just wanted to clarify that, especially because the DMH memo spends time talking about PRTFs, psychiatric residential treatment facilities, and there is a new PRTF being developed in Vermont, which is a crucial part of our system of care, but that is not licensed and regulated by DCF. So I'm not clear.
Okay.
That's it. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay.
So, for the record, only I want to fiscal. I do think this is an appropriation issue, not a finance issue. And two, I think it it is appropriate. First of all, I received a similar memo from NHS, but not this one. I think it is appropriate for them to flag financial concerns. Whether or not we agree it's a concern or not, is a whole other story. So their point is that they think there's some language in there that changes, that requires them to do certain practices for out of state. And they're saying by doing that, it's going to change their contracting practices. And because of that, they're saying that they're going to have to go out for more contracts rather than piggybacking, as Matthew talked about. And they're saying that if they worry there's going to be more concerns about, more higher, they'll have to sign different higher rate contracts. So they have some contractual concerns. So I do think that it's appropriate for them to flag potential increased costs. Whether those come to fruition is a different story, but I do think it is appropriate for them to mention it to us.
I don't.
And I actually put it in my fiscal note as a flag, like this may have potential contractual impact, but it's also one of those things that if we do it, then they will have to just address it in budget adjustment. So like, because we don't know what the cost will be, it's kind of like what Chris was talking about before with like a penalty, like you don't know what it's going to be. We don't know what those contracts are going to be. It's more one of those things where they're flagging, and I put in the fiscal note, like it could be a cost. You should know it could be a cost, but we don't know what it will cost. Just be mindful of that as you move forward with legislation. So that's all.
That really is an appropriations.
It is appropriations issue. Yeah.
Okay, committee. Questions. Maybe we'll let this one percolate a little bit. Put it on for vote first thing tomorrow, that way.
I'm happy to make a motion.
Make a motion for you. Are we ready?
I serve as the clerk
Yeah.
proxy.
Be the clerk proxy.
Somebody else.
Matthew's okay with this. Okay.
Where's Senator Matt? There he is. Very back.
Where's Grady? We want more Grady.
He's over playing with a golf club.
Okay,
Nice.
I need a motion.
I will make the motion to pass H 657 draft.
It's a Senate Health and Welfare Committee report.
The Senate Health and Welfare Committee report passed favorably out of Senate Finance and to the full Senate.
Okay. Further discussion. Questions? Any further amendments? If not, all those in favor, this is a little, this one's gonna be a little, call the roll.
Right, I'm gonna
This
go,
one's gonna be a little confusing.
unlike our normal clerk, I'm just gonna go alphabetically here. I'm gonna go Senator Chittenden, yes. Senator Beck,
Missing.
Senator Brock,
Yes.
Senator Matos,
Yes.
Senator Hardy.
Yes, this is not.
Okay, it's not alphabetical. Okay, sorry.
I want to give you a 5-minute break. We've got a long session after.
Hardy with an asterisk. Yeah, like it could be. Senator Gillick,
Yes.
Senator Cummings,
Yes,
and 601.
okay.
Just confused me. But
I can do it. Yeah, I can do that. I'm not doing it for committees.
Oh, okay. I'll let you go. Okay, can we take a 5-minute break? And then we are going